everyone. For today's speaking lesson, we are addressing how to have a virtual discussion. Now, you might wonder, what is a virtual discussion? A virtual discussion is one that takes place online instead of in person. Now, there's many forms that virtual discussions can take. Sometimes a Zoom or a Google Meet meeting might be a virtual discussion where everyone has their cameras on and is talking with each other. But we're going to talk about a different form of virtual discussion, which is the most common form of a virtual discussion, which is a discussion board or thread, as it might be called, where students post a response to a teacher's question. So the teacher will put a question on whatever platform they are using, like Google Classroom or Canvas, and students are required to post a response to that question. And then from there, respond to other classmates to simulate a live class discussion. Because we can't always have discussions in person. So it's useful to have another tool to be able to talk to your classmates and peers and discuss a topic or analyze a topic together and see what other students have to say and different lines of thinking and different perspectives. So, why do we have virtual discussions in the first place? The first reason is that colleges often use virtual discussion boards in any class format. So, colleges will come in person formats, hybrid formats, and virtual formats, but they tend to use discussion boards in all of them because it's a really useful tool for the professor to be able to analyze how students can interact, listen, and respond to each other about a specific topic without a facilitator. And that leads us into reason number two is that it's a really important skill to be able to analyze content and discuss it on your own without the need of a teacher, a moderator, or a facilitator. It shows independence and being able to do something without a crutch. And that leads us into point number three is that employers really want you to have this skill. They want you to be able to come to a board meeting and discuss among yourselves a solution for the company's problem. And you want to be able to participate in team efforts. A lot of companies like it when they have team projects and being able to work with others, and discussions are a way to facilitate that. So there's a lot going for us to be able to master virtual discussions. So there are some advantages and some disadvantages to virtual discussions. You can take your time with a virtual discussion. You can plan out your response, which sometimes makes people feel more secure, and they're able to provide better, far more in depth analysis than if they were put on the spot in a classroom. You can find a post that appeals to you, so you can pick and choose which ones you want to respond to. You can see what everyone else has to say. Maybe someone has a really good point that you didn't think about, and that will help you in the learning process. And it's really helpful for students that may feel shy or uncomfortable with some form of public speaking, whether it's their face on a camera or they're in a classroom and they're put on the spot and they feel very uncomfortable speaking in front of others. And this is a really good method for students like that who can participate fully in a classroom discussion without the anxiety of public speaking. Some disadvantages are is that it's difficult to tell the tone of voice of a written post versus someone who's sitting in front of you where you can read their facial expressions, hear the tone of voice, see their body language. So it's a new type of skill to identify tone of voice and make sure we're responding appropriately in a tone of voice and that other people are responding appropriately in a nice tone of voice. We need to be careful with spelling and grammar far more than if we gave a verbal discussion because verbally we don't use spelling and grammar. But a virtual discussion relies on being able to read what is written. So if we write a post that has very bad spelling and grammar, it's more difficult for us to understand what the person is trying to say and then be able to respond to it if we can't understand it. And lastly, you need to really rely on other classmates to post, to participate, which sometimes can be frustrating, but it really pulls us together in a team effort, which is what a lot of future employers want, is that everyone can work together as a team and be able to produce something wonderful together. So how do we do this? We need to first make an initial post. Your teacher will post a question or prompt, and now you have to respond directly to that prompt or question. You're not thinking about what other people have to say, you're thinking about what you have to say. You need to make an argument with some evidence to support it. Same way that you would write a thesis statement and have your supporting reason. You need to make sure that your initial post has a lot to say. If it doesn't have a lot to say, then people can't have a lot to say to respond to it. So it needs to be a full paragraph, which is 5 to 7 sentences. If you're going on to college, that should be a lot longer, but if you're in the high school level, you should be doing 5 to 7 sentences for a discussion post, initial post. So this is what you're doing when you respond to the teacher's question. You need to put evidence into your post so this way that people can understand why you think the way you do and they can maybe agree with that evidence or refute that evidence. And that evidence could be quotes, it could be specific details. You could be referring back to previous lessons or videos or the text itself, something to support what you have to say. And make sure your post can encourage discussion, that you are bringing up points that people could argue with. And then proofread. Make sure your spelling and grammar is doing something productive and not making it more difficult for us to read it. You can use an outside service like Grammarly or put it into a Google Doc and have Google look it over first, but make sure you proofread. Now, after you make your initial post, you need to participate in a discussion and respond to classmates. So you should take as much time and as much care with your responses as your initial post. That means you should be responding in paragraphs. Again, we're showing that we can understand the content, respond to specific points, and really make a discussion so someone could respond to your response. You need to have a lot to say. You should use classmates' names, address them, say, I agree with this person, but not with this person. Show that you recognize you are participating in a discussion with your classmates. Refer back to specific things that your classmates said. Pick a couple different points that your classmate brought up and put them in your post to show that you listened and you read what they wrote, not that you're just responding to the same question, that you're actually responding to what they said. And add something new to the discussion. Bring up a new point or a new perspective or something different to say so that someone can then respond to your response and keep the discussion going.